What's up, y'all? It's Dr. Paul. Welcome to Liberty Hill Comics. We have the Comic Book Conservators live show episode 45 for you tonight. And we are going to have a good time. We got 3 segments. I got 3 co-hosts. And I'm excited to be here.
Oh, you got to count Jack.
Okay. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We'll count all the pets, all the loved ones, everybody. How y'all doing?
Good, guys. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Larry, it's great to see you.
I'm back. I know. I'm back home. Yeah.
Not on the road.
Yeah, I know. I've been, I can't do any content. I've been cranking stuff out from the road as best I can, but I'm home. I sleep in my own bed. It's awesome.
That's awesome. Hey, what else is awesome is AG gave us a super chat, $19.99. Thank you so much. AG. Very generous of you. Very much appreciated. Next show is on AG, folks. So why don't we go around the horn? Phil, say hi to the good people. Let them know where they can find you.
Hey, everyone. As mostly always, co-hosting here with Dr. Paul, I'm Phil, Phantom Restoration. You can find me on Instagram, Phantom Restoration, or the website in my, right beneath my name here. I'm right on the border of Brooklyn and Queens here in New York City. Like a lot of people's favorite superhero, Peter Parker, Spider-Man. So
you dress, you got Spider-Man PJs, don't you?
That's I'm a little tired. I was up earlier this morning. I'm drinking coffee right now. I ran the Manhattan 10K. So. In like 18-degree weather, I was miserably running it.
Oh my goodness gracious! It hit 80 today in the Texas Hill Country. Freaking 80!
It's pouring buckets of rain here in Sacramento.
My pool is still 56 degrees. I did a cold plunge today because it was 80 out.
Damn.
Captain Larry, say hi to the people. Let them know where they can find you.
Hey, everybody. You can find me at flyingoutcomics.com, but mostly you can find me really quick on Instagram or Facebook. I'm pretty quick to answer any messages. And that's about it.
Awesome. Glad to have you here. And our friend, frequent guest host, he can add now to his appellation, my good friend co-author, Dr. Shelby Thompson's joining us from Shelby's Comics. Say hi to everybody, Shelby.
Hi, everybody. How are y'all doing tonight? Man, excited to be here. Excited as an armadillo in a berry patch.
Shelby, what is that off your shoulder that I see in the background?
Wow,
there's shoulder. That looks like a fancy book right there.
Oh, like off your delt sideways. Yeah,
I know it's kind of hard. I like to do that. Like, it's hard
tough.
to do. Like,
I have to.
It's like that. That's my comic clean right there. So that's for Jim. Woo! I did buy some. So,
Jim,
nice.
All right. So now that we have introductions done, go ahead.
I say just a quick greetings, Jeff. Thanks for tuning in.
I was about to go down all of them.
Someone that I've spoken to recently.
Awesome.
What'd you add to the original art?
Oh.
What's up?
You want to update? Shelby wants an update on what happened last weekend, Phil.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that.
What was so important that you couldn't join us?
You're sitting on a beach.
No, not quite. Orlando. So
Oh, you were at Disney. Beach. Okay, I get it. All right.
It was right across the street from Universal, which was pretty cool. But no, alas, no Universal. Did end up going to the mall because my girlfriend came along, so we got some shopping down on the side. But the main reason I went was OAX, this was the second year that it was put on. By Bill Cox, who's the owner and operator of Comic Art Fans. So while I do, comics are a passion, comic art, as you can see, a bunch of pieces framed behind me on the wall, and I'm surrounded by them in equal passion. I love very much. It's just kind of a step further the the actual pencils and inks used to make the books that we love.
And the thing is that there's so much. It's one of a kind items that you have, that art.
I caution anyone who's waiting to get into it, if you collect comics, because it is a slippery slope. That the FOMO is real, because, as you just said, each piece is unique. So sometimes you might say, well, no, I really got to get this. I may never see it again, because you may never see it again. But
maybe sitting on somebody's wall like Phil's.
Yeah. It was basically the apex of a lot of the people that collect that stuff on kind of the higher end. I mean, I was at a booth with some guy talking about wanting to buy the it's not even a cover, because it was made as a 3D. It's like a 3D cover. This Sandman 1. I know, a little, actually, Neil Gaiman's a bit contentious now, but the book,
it's like a mixed media pastiche or something, right?
Yeah, it is. It's like a wooden structure, and like they took a photo of it to make
diorama. Yeah.
But it still is Sandman 1, so I guess it's kind of an odd example for me to have chosen. But there was I saw one of the splash pages to Mad #1. That was there.
Oh yeah.
There was all of the high-end art and
very
a lot of really cool collectors, and Jeff was someone that I got to chat briefly with.
Sweet. Well, let's say hi to everybody. Yeah. Thanks again to AG for the super chat. Welcome. Hugo Danner, my buddy Mike, what's up?
Oh, nice.
David, my buddy Starman is here. Rick Nestor's here as usual. JCP, a regular. Don Carter, happy Sunday to you. The Professor, Peter Relachi, check out Experiments in Conservation. Archivist Adrift, Jason, what's happening? Check his channel out as well. Gerald Yates, what's up? Vulu, welcome as usual. Jeff Weddings, we've already said hi. Peter says, I have Batman PJs. Of course you do, Professor.
Of course, yes.
Rick says, snowing here in Vancouver. Silver Spidey says, hello. Ben Stewart is here. Good evening, fellow conservator. Pluck My Last Nerve is here. Good evening to you. Who's your favorite artist, Phil? Think about that while I finish the hellos. Philip Criminale is here. Says hello from Liberty Hill. Welcome, Philip. Glad to have you here. Aaron Conyers and Bronzeville. What's up, guy? Missed your Leading Comics episode live. Yeah, we had a fun time talking about Leading Comics. We did a little bit of retrospective, not a super deep dive. This isn't the platform for it, but we had a lot of fun talking about that one. That was a great book. Favorite artist, Phil? I can't name just one. It's like naming your favorite child.
Yeah, it's
top three. Go ahead.
So the skinny, for the first 10 years collecting art, I was a Walking Dead guy. So Charlie Adler would be, and there's some pieces, a lot of zombie art that I got from him. I also like Ryan Ottley, who did Invincible, the superhero counterpart to the Walking Dead horror book. I think he's really evolved over the years. His style is, you know it when you see it. But more recently, and I have to say my favorite artist is Lee Bermeo, who is most he's kind of he's in there in like the ether, but he's more known for doing a lot of cover art, and he doesn't have a lot of content he's produced, but he has worked on notable works like Luther, Man of Steel, the Joker graphic novel, Batman Noel, Batman Damned. A very unmistakable style when you see him.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to comment on this. Bronzeville says he was second on the registry. I don't know if that means before or after I enter my 9.6 double cover, but that registry is a son of a gun, man. It's addicting. Philip says Todd McFarlane. I bet there's a lot of folks that have that answer. I do really like me some Todd McFarlane art. I wish he had stayed in. I wish Todd had stayed in Marvel longer, or in the mainstream longer, because once he left for Image, he did like Spawn exclusively, and I just wasn't like really into Spawn. So I feel like if he would have had a long career in mainstream comics, it'd probably have an even bigger following than he does, even though obviously he's very big. Fuck My Last Nerve says Joe
Joe
Kubert.
Kubert. Yeah.
That's a great one.
See,
Bill Kane's another great one.
Yeah. I'm a Matt Baker, and I'm dabbling in LB Cole. I like the old Golden Age art.
Yeah. For me, in the Golden Age, Lou Fine.
Lou Fine. Yeah.
Those Lou Fine covers.
Yeah. They're so busy.
Wow.
I'd say Everett for me, classics, but that's the distinction. I have different artists for books than I do the original art, because there's the art that is a Matt Baker artist, not cheap.
Sure.
I'll probably never afford it.
Surprisingly, actually, based on some of the comps that we look at, I'm not sure your budget, but especially at Heritage, where you can finance an invoice, you'd be surprised you might be able to get an affordable interior page, like a Matt Baker.
It'd be an interior page. Covers out of the question. That's 6 figures. So
an interior page with 1 or 2 panels with the female form, exquisitely drawn by
the Matt Baker, yeah.
Philip, I don't think this is McFarlane's mistake. I think it's the colorist's mistake.
Yeah.
If we're talking about the same thing, but
yeah. Yep.
Let's see. Cole and Lou Fine are great. This YouTuber doesn't like Fine. Well, that's why we all get to have this is one of the things I love about the hobby. There's games within the game, sub-hobbies within this hobby, and everybody can have an opinion, and we can all go home happy about it. I don't understand feuds. I don't understand why we have beef with somebody because they just do something differently than you do or like something different than you like. It's literally bananas to me. But I kind of love me all comics. I like low grade. I like mid grade, high grade, old, new. Comics are just cool, man. Yes, sir. It was mentioned earlier in Shelby, and right next to Shelby there. But just as another thing and a plug for you guys, really. Thanks, Jeff, for supporting the book, and again, congratulations you two on. I mean, Kickstarter reached almost $17,000.
I know, that was so cool.
And I know several people that reached out and said that they were supporting it that I didn't even know were interested or had any interest in the conservation aspect. So really, there was a lot of reach with this book.
There's a great interest in it.
It was an unbelievable experience, very humbling, really a wonderful collaboration with Shelby. I could not have asked for a better partner in co-authoring the book, and we're gonna save more talk about the book for the B segment, though, and I think we may as well use that as a segue to get started. So we have a fun book today.
Oh,
Suspense 39
on my want list, very high.
I like that book.
I think the word grail is overused a lot in comics.
Well, there's so many of them on the census now.
Oh, this is I was about to say, even though this is a plentiful book, for me this is a grail book. I think this is kind of at the level of where you can start calling books grails. I saw somebody post the other day the Alf riding the inner tube seal and said,
an interesting,
and it said, I acquired a grail today. And I think that's literally the definition of like jumping the shark, right? Like we just we're using grail too much. If that's something somebody can, and again, to each his own. If that's your thing, great. I think that's wonderful. But grail, this is not even okay. So anyway, I do think this is a grail book. I had a lot of fun researching this one, putting together the A segment for tonight's show, and so I hope everybody enjoys it as much as I did. So this Conserved 6.0 sold in the last week. I think it literally sold 1 week ago today when we had Rick Morgan on the show. And
sorry I missed that show.
Oh yeah, that was amazing. By the way, I think Shelby and I both are going to be on Rick's channel tomorrow.
Oh yes, tomorrow. Yes, thank you. I was going to remind
what time?
You to announce.
I don't know if we have it. If you subscribed and just turn your notifications on. I don't know if. Well, actually, Shelby, maybe you can look up. I think he did give us a time. I'm not sure though. But tomorrow evening,
yep.
we're going to be on Rick's show. Should be fun. But yeah, it was great to have Rick finally on the show. You know, Rick and I have emailed. He actually contributed quite a bit to the book, so we had a lot of interaction through that.
Good.
He and Shelby have been friends that talk for a while, like, you know, in real life friends, IRL friends. But I had never spoken to him, even though we have a lot of friends in common, and we had texted one another and, like I said, emailed. When we finally spoke to prep for the show, we talked for like 3 hours, right? We just
Well, you guys have a lot in common too.
We do, yeah. We just became fast friends, and it's not just like our educational background, but just like I think how we view the world is very similar, you know, and priorities are very similar. So, at any rate, it was great to have him on, and we rightfully didn't do a segment, what are conserved comic books worth. So today I'm doing a little bit longer one. So why do we do this? We do this because this is a show. This is a weekly live show about comic book conservation. But just because you can do something doesn't mean you should do something. Yep. And we look at books that have been conserved, and we look at the fair market value of them and what they sell to relative to a universal grade book. And then we play sometimes a little game called Would You Rather? We usually do a guessing game in the middle about what the book hammered for. So please don't cheat. It ruins the fun. And you're only cheating yourself, as your parents and teachers used to say. So before we get into Tales of Suspense 39, I just wanted to do a little Marvel Age chronology. So Marvel joins the first book of the Silver Age is officially in 1956. DC launches the Silver Age. But it's a slow burn. They didn't just dump a bunch of the Silver Age grows slowly from 56 through 1960, basically. Then Marvel jumps on the scene, and they jump on in a big way. They're bandwagoners. They were at the time anyway. So November 61, you have Fantastic Four #1. This is the first book of Marvel Silver Age, or what I just typically call the Marvel Age, because it does come, you know, almost 5 years after the start of the Silver Age, A, and B, it changes the Silver Age. The Marvel Age really, you know, very much changes the tenor and the tone of the Silver Age. So I just call it usually the Marvel Age. So I thought we'd go through the 10 most important books in the Marvel Age, and we'll do them in chronological order. So Fantastic Four #1, I think everybody knows this book. This is the book where Stan almost quit, and then he decided to do the book, you know, as the story goes, sort of his way. And he launched with Jack Kirby, Fantastic Four 1, November 61, CGC Census 2100 books. The next book that's kind of retconned into the Silver Age, but I include here, I think it's still a very important book, is Tales to Astonish #27. This is the first appearance of Ant-Man. He's not in costume. It's a little bit more of like a sci-fi horror story. But it gets retconned about a year later into Ant-Man with the costume and everything. And again, this was when they were scrambling to be a superhero company. So it goes on the list, and it goes here. Check out the census on this book. Barely over 1,000. These are all universal counts.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask.
I think this book it does have a great cover. It does have Hank Pym on the cover, and Ant-Man's featured on the cover. It's a bit of an underrated book. It's definitely a book that's underrepresented in the census. Personally, I love it. I think it's a grail. I think it's one of the top books in the Marvel Age. Hulk 1. This is from the first run, 6 issues, May 1962. Again, this isn't really a superhero book. It's more a modern day sci-fi Jekyll and Hyde. But in the theme of things, and as superheroes became more popular, a lot of these books morphed into superheroes. So they took the bones that they had created and they put some superhero meat on them. So this one is May 62, 1,500 in the census. And Amazing Fantasy #15 comes in August 1962. This one has 2,600 in the census. I think this is for a few reasons. One, they're almost all in the census, but also they were picking up steam. Notice this is 10 months after the publication of Fantastic Four #1, and Fantastic Four is already in issue number 10. They're doing well, and they're becoming more popular. They printed more. Interestingly to me, FF1 used to be the granddaddy of Silver Age Marvel books. That's no longer true. Amazing Fantasy 15 is now the book.
Yep.
So these things shift over time. Next here, and this is where we find our subject book today, Journey into Mystery is August of 62. Now note, that's actually the same month as Amazing Fantasy 15, but they did have a bi-weekly release. So this came out the same month, but actually 2 weeks later than Amazing Fantasy 15, I believe. So it is correctly here in the chronology. Only 1,900 in the census. This is another, these are all really excellent first appearances and important books, but I think this one is a particularly good cover, and it's a grail, clearly.
Yep.
Next up, our subject for today, Tales of Suspense number 39, March of 63. So half a year after first appearance of Thor, you get first appearance of Iron Man. Now, at this point, the Marvel universe is very small. It's the FF, it's Ant-Man, Spider-Man, Thor, and now Iron Man. That's it. Right? Like for superhero books, that's the entire Marvel universe at that point in time. It's kind of bananas to think. So this is an early book. Notice it's 12 cents, but also notice the 12 cents is in the circle. That circle is really only used for I think it's, I should have looked it up. It's like the first 15 issues of FF or so. So that's, if you have a Marvel Age book and it has that circle for the price, it's a really early book. 2,200 in the census for this book. Again, Grail status. Strange Tales 110 is July of 63. So just a couple months after first appearance of Iron Man, you have first appearance of somebody who, Paste Pot Pete, right? Wizard?
Oh yeah, it's the classic.
And can anybody help me? Who's this for? It's obviously the first appearance of Doctor Strange, but sadly he's not on the cover. I think it's definitely hurt this book over time that he's not on 100%. The cover. I still consider it a grail. It's about 2,200, very close in terms of the census to Tales of Suspense 39.
Pretty cool.
Then we get we just have 3 more books that I consider in this, the chronology to be the keys, the ones that I think hit the level of grail. That's just my opinion, man. Avengers 1 is September 1963. Now, importantly, it does not have a superhero first appearance, but it's the first appearance of the Avengers. I think the Avengers are a lot of people's favorite, and so it's definitely grail level. Look at the jump in the CGC census count. 4,300 from 2,200 for Strange Tales 1 and, 2,500 for Amazing Fantasy 15. Big jump. This book is not a rare book. I mean, none of these books are rare, to be perfectly frank, but this is a huge jump. Yeah. By then, the Marvel Age was cooking, and they were doing very well, and they were selling a lot of books. So they were printing a lot of books, and it's as simple as that. So this book, is still an expensive book, because although there's a lot more supply, there's also a lot of demand, right? People love them some Avengers. And the last 2 books I have on the list are X-Men 1, which does feature a whole host of first appearances, is the exact same month as Avengers 1, and again is staggered in terms of the release date. So it is correctly positioned here as chronologically after Avengers 1. Look at here, the CGC count, 4,900, even more than Avengers 1. And again, I think clearly Grail status. And then I round out the Marvel Age chronology in terms of Grails. Daredevil 1, April 1964, CGC count Universal 5,500. For me, this is actually probably the best of these books in terms of it's the best executed. It's the best edited. The story flows better, and this is that collaboration. Yeah, it's that collaboration with Bill Everett, and I actually think at this point in time, Bill Everett was a better storyteller. He was better suited to the Marvel style than Jack Kirby was, and I may get hate for that. Don't really care. Again, this is my opinion, but this is, to me, if you read this book, it introduces all the main characters, and you know literally everything you need to know about Daredevil in that book. Everything that basically kind of almost ever happens to him is laid out right here. And, you know, honestly, you know, everybody raves about Miller's Daredevil, which I'm a fan of, but Frank Miller did not need to read issues 1 through 150 or 2 through 157 to write his first issue of Daredevil. He only needed to read Daredevil 1 because Foggy's there, Karen's there. Everything about Daredevil is right here. So it's my favorite. It's got a great cover, but huge census count. That's definitely held it back. And that's the Marvel Age. So I just wanted to give that background. Sorry for the diversion, but I had fun kind of putting Tales of Suspense 39 in this chronology and kind of putting it on the pedestal and comparing it to the other books of the era that it rightfully would be compared against. So now we'll do a deep dive like we normally do into Tales of Suspense 39. First in Origin of Iron Man, obviously. Median grade is a 4.5 in Universal. As we discussed, just a little under 2,200 Universal copies in the census. Fair number of signature at 285, 388 restored, 41 qualified, only 12 conserved. This is why when one of these comes to auction, we love to talk about it because it just doesn't happen very often. That's less than half of 1% of the CGC population. I didn't have to pick a specific book to do the comparison because this book actually is relatively plentiful. It's not like the Golden Age books we talk about. These sell every couple months. There's one in 6.0 that sells. And these are the stats compiled by Go Collect, which I pay for. They don't sponsor the show, but I like the service. A 6.0 in Universal is top quartile, 24.2%. There was a big range. Most of the copies that were auctioned off sold for $1,300 to $1,400. There was this high book that sold for fixed price on eBay at $16,909. But the 1 year average is $14,227, and Go Collect's algorithm put the fair market value at $14,000. I use that for the value. Note that during the pandemic, the record paid for this book was $22,680, and you're going to be holding it for a while till you're not underwater on that. But hopefully, you got a Grail and you're enjoying it, and you love the character. I've read every issue of Tales of Suspense with Iron Man in it, and then I've read the entire Iron Man series from number 1 up to, I don't know, about issue 300 or so. And it's actually really good. I know people say, you know, Iron Man was a C-level character or whatever before the movie. I disagree. I've read all the early issues of all the Marvel Age. I think Iron Man was as well written as anything except perhaps Avengers when Roy Thomas was on it. That's just my opinion, but I think the Iron Man run through the Silver Age is outstanding. So whoever paid $22,680, again, hopefully you bought it for love and not because you thought you were going to have a quick flip out of it. So this specific book Conservation includes tear seals to cover, cover reinforced, and cover cleaned. That's a relatively light hand. This was graded July of 2024, so probably more or less just graded to put into an auction. And I don't have any further notes on it. It presents pretty well.
That's it. It presents really well.
There's some pieces out of it, so I decided to do some super close-ups here. This is the top of the front cover, obviously. You look at it, this looks like better than a 6 for sure, right? But if you look at the bottom left quadrant here, you see there's a chunk out of the cover there. That's what's holding it back.
Is that a tape pull or is it a chip?
Yeah, that didn't look like a chunk. That looks like the paper tear.
It looks
like the ink came off.
So what you're saying is it's just the surface, just the ink that the paper is.
Yeah, I think the paper's
looks
there.
suspiciously like that.
Yeah, I agree.
And that's why I got the 6 instead of a 5.5 or a 5.5,
right?
Yeah.
Well, the back has a similar defect. So top of the back looks pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
And then
actually the back looks really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wait,
can you go back to the notes?
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. Upper right, upper left. You see, there's actually
there's a small chip. Yeah.
A significant
pre-marble
little
chipping, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the overhang on the front cover, which you can still see here, that's actually a significant piece that's missing. There isn't much of the interior showing, but there's still a significant piece missing. Back to the notes.
Because
we don't have much in the way of notes.
One thing I did want to mention, though, I did notice that rightfully so, amid everything, at least we can take some solace that CGC has now reintroduced the grader's date of the book back on the
that was
notes,
a big deal.
which is very good because there was a moment there and we discussed this prior on the channel about how that kind of disappeared and a lot of the label text and grader's notes were being something was going on with that. So it seems that CGC is currently working through that.
So this sold on a major auction house in the past week. How about guesses? And while y'all do guesses, I will scroll back and see what kind of if we have some comments we want to highlight. We got a lot of comments. And do hellos to folks that we didn't say hello to earlier. All right, let's see.
Check
Gerald Yates.
Look back at the private chat. I answered your question.
What do you two think that this thing went for? This bad boy.
I'm gonna sit this one out because I actually bid on it and I know what it went for. So
just throw out a coy. Oh, maybe it went for this, and we don't know.
No. I gotta be honest.
I asked everybody not to cheat.
Yep, I'm not gonna cheat. I'm gonna step back and say yes. I know what it's sold for because I actually bid on it. Now it went over what I bid. I did not get it. So
okay. Immaculate Comics is here. Hello, Rick. And,
hey, Rick.
Shelby looked up the time for his show tomorrow. Shelby, you want to let everybody know the time?
It is going to be at 6:00 Rick time, which is Eastern. I'm sorry,
West Coast. Come on,
Pacific, right?
Fake news.
Pacific time, and that will be 4:00 for us people in the Central time zone.
A little bit early. We're gonna have to knock
off
work
early. You're gonna take off work a little early, you know.
Jason says it's interesting Hulk got a standalone book right off the bat. Yeah, it was canceled after 6 issues. He says there was another Hulk, wasn't there? They had used the name for like a creature because they were just doing we're knocking out generic creature books.
That was the prototype Hulk with a big brown,
I don't really
Sasquatch looking thing.
Yeah, not really.
Yeah.
If I could just make a fun comment.
Yeah.
In the same way where there's the oddities of the collecting, when you look at things like, just as a quick example, like the early Superman and Batman books, the detective, like Batman was on the cover of 27 but not 28, then he was on 29, and the reason for that is at the same time of month that Action Comics was on the stand, DC didn't want Superman and Batman competing with each other. So if you look at the corresponding Action Comics, so in the same way, a fun fact about Hulk when it was canceled is that because at the time too, publishers could only release 8 titles under the Comics Code. So when Hulk was canceled, the title became Spider-Man. So that was when Spider-Man got his own title. So it shifted from Hulk canceling at issue 6 to Spider-Man starting at issue 1.
At risk of disagreeing with you,
right,
Phil, I don't think it was because of the Comics Code. I think it was because of the relationship with DC, where DC was distributing their books, and they only let Marvel put out 8 books. Because they didn't want them competing with them.
Yeah, but if you notice, what they did is they shifted those characters to group books. So Hulk went into Avengers.
Actually, Hulk went into Tales to Astonish.
Tales to Astonish, yeah.
Later, a little later.
But
but
I guess the fact stands that when Hulk was canceled, Spider-Man, like that same, like the crossover.
Same idea. Marvel could only put out 8 books because DC would only let them put out 8. Yeah. And Hulk was selling probably fine, but they had a hit on their hands in Spider-Man.
Exactly. Yeah.
Kate and Lube, welcome. Bronzeville makes a comment about FF1 being closer to the monster theme than superheroes. Absolutely correct.
Well, and if you notice, they didn't even give them costumes until like issue 4.
Yeah, that's what Bronzeville commented on. Rick says, I have 2 copies of AF-15 that are not in the census. Caton's response is close to what mine would be. Now that's an Immacuflex. Very nice.
That's funny.
Thank you, Ben. I appreciate it. I love doing that stuff. I don't know if other people like it or hate it, but I kind of just love looking at that and thinking about, what was the Marvel age at that moment in time,
And it's such an interesting history of looking at that transition from romance books and monster books, so to speak, to the superheroes, and it was fairly fast, right? Like you kind of showed in that timeline of the first appearances of the superheroes in Marvel. It was within 2 years that romance is out. Monster books are out. Superheroes have taken over.
Not only that, yeah, absolutely, that's true. And the other thing is worth pointing out, and it ties in with AG's comment here. FF5, the first Doom, is a Marvel Grail. I could have put a lot of supervillains on that list, and I could have added a few more superheroes
Spider-Man
as well.
1, yeah.
I agree with you, and to tie that into Shelby's comment. If you look at the first, say, 100 issues of FF, by the time Jack and Stan were done with FF with issue 105 or 115, whatever it is, the entire Marvel universe is basically created. Everything after that is kind of derivative and revisiting. And not to say that creators later didn't do great things, because they did. But the skeleton of the entire Marvel universe, all the way up to recent times, was done by 1971 with that last collaboration between Stan and Jack on FF. I mean, all the bad guys, the Inhumans, the Eternals, everything was done by them, basically.
Yeah.
True. What else I'm not into guesses yet.
What did the 6.0 Universal sell for again? What was it?
14.
14 was the fair market value. Yep.
Did you want to make a guess on this? If Larry's bowing out,
I'm going to say 6, 8.
6,
I don't know.
8.
I do not trust. I do not trust the buyers out there anymore with conserved books.
Far be it for me to tell Rick his business on Spider-Man, but my understanding of this was Ditko did the interior. Ditko actually did a cover, and Stan didn't like the cover, so he had Kirby do the cover, but not sure.
That
And that
no,
cover was
Interesting
republished.
no,
Yeah.
that's true for AF-15, and that's not what they're talking about. A couple of comments up, they were talking about another issue.
Okay. Rick Nestor's in at 3.5. I think that would have been a hell of a deal on this. Not sure. Can you imagine getting a tape pull? I have a tape pull on my Iron Man 1. That's my worst horror story for tape pulls. I actually left the tape on the Mylar with the chunk of paper on it, just to remind myself never to be a dork.
Never leave tape on.
This is a great question. What do they mean by say covers reinforced? So reinforcement means that the conservator thought the paper was weak in an area. It wasn't necessarily torn where it needed to be a tear seal, but it was sort of looking threadbare and worn, and it could tear. So they reinforced it with, in this case, it'd be exclusively would have to be Japanese paper.
It would have to. And
an archival glue for it to get conserved grade. And you can read all about that here in our book. Let's see. This is our second guest in at 3.5. The professor's in at 10. JCP's in at 9. Pluck My Last Nerve's 45. Ben Stewart's at 85. Jason's at 4,037.23. He did that just to make me spell that whole thing out.
Yeah,
What's up, Steve? Hello, Maurice.
I mean, 4 was my first guess in my head, and man, if it sold for that, freaking I'll buy 2 of them.
AG says 4,500.
But if Larry was bidding on it and
Ben says 6,
he dropped, I'm sure it went for more than 4. I know Larry could afford 4.
JCP just corrected me. I believe he's correct. I said Eternals. I was wrong. But
you had Black Panther, you had Warlock, Galactus.
Pretty much everything.
Yeah.
I said the Inhumans, and I was just on a roll with the Eternals and stuff that Jack created. So thank you for the correction. I do appreciate it, folks. Sometimes when we ad lib, we make mistakes. Phil's at 8K, and I think we're ready for the reveal.
Let's do it.
All right.
Make me upset.
6,200.
I said 6,000. Did I win?
This was on Comic Link 1 week ago. 62 bids. It actually was at 6,000. It reached 6,000 relatively early, like on Friday or Saturday, and then it sat there until it ended on Sunday, and there was only one more bid, 62, and that was enough to take it home. I think this is a heck of a book for 6,200 bucks.
Yeah. If I was working, I would have bought this.
So what is that in terms of percentage? Here we have the 14K and the 6,200. It's 44%. So somebody else look back, if you don't mind, and see who our winner is, because I have a would you rather. So here is a 3.0. This is just the last 3.0 that sold Universal. 3.0 Universal sells relatively regularly. Go Collect has the fair market value at $6,000. This particular one sold for slightly less than that, but it's a rounding error away. So $6,000 is what you're going to pay for a 3.0 Universal. This one, I think, presents pretty darn well for a 3.0. There are a lot of defects allowed in 3.0 that this one does not have. So I think it's a nice looking copy. But let's go through the grader's notes. This one was graded in 22 and has moderate creasing to cover, light tears to cover, moderate pieces out of cover, moderate bends to the cover, moderate stress lines to cover, moderate cover tanning, light staining to cover. And you can see that, especially with the tide mark, tide line along the bottom. You see the chunk out is there on the right side, just underneath the exclamation point of Iron Man, and split bottom of spine. So it definitely has, it's been well loved.
I see a tide line on there in that cover too.
Yeah. It does have a pretty nice cut in terms of you can see most of the quotations at the end of Iron Man, and you can see the bottom blue box. And we've talked about that centering and that cut before. This one has a pretty decent centering.
Yeah, that one actually looks pretty good.
Yeah, it presents pretty well. It sold for $59.80 and 21 bids. This one sold October of 2024. Like I said, it's just the last 3.0 that sold. This one happened to be on
Comic Connect.
Comic Connect. Yeah, thank you. So there it is. Would you rather?
I think 3.0 would be a fun restoration project, but if you just had to sell me something, I mean, I'd buy the
I don't think I would crack the 3.0 because you're only looking at maybe a half a point bump in the work that would have to be done to get that. I don't think it's worth it.
Half a point bump?
I disagree completely on that one, my friend.
I don't think I'd because
What's the back cover look like?
I would show it. It's very similar. I didn't. Here it is. Yeah. You can see the tide lines.
Yeah, you can see the tide line, but the thing is if you attack a lot of this, you're going to end up with a conserved book again.
Oh, it's conserved for sure. I really think you're only going to get a half a point, maybe a point. Now you got a 4.0 conserved versus your 6.0 conserved. I'll take the 6.0 conserved. Yeah. I think the ceiling on this is much higher than half a point or even a point, but I would still concede that it's less than 6.
Yeah, it is less than 6. I agree with you. You'll still get a conserved. So yeah. I mean, I'd rather have this, like I said, it'd be a fun project, but
yeah, I would have it. I don't think I'd
there.
Yeah, for me, this is really easy. The conserved book is. So. Yeah. I would much rather have the conserved book here.
Yeah, it shows nicer.
It's not really that close. So, who was the winner?
It was a tie between me and Ben.
Well, you can't compete. You're part of the show.
I know.
So Ben's the winner.
Is the winner.
All right. Well, I really enjoyed putting that together. Like I said, I like that early Marvel Age stuff. I like thinking about the chronology and what was the extent of the Marvel universe at any moment in time. I like thinking about that when I reread those old ones.
I just love history. I'm a huge Marvel fan. Of course, Marvel for me. I mean, Marvel in general, starts in the Silver Age, that's just what it is. And, it's only been the past couple of years I've really gotten into Golden Age. I wish I'd gotten in earlier, but, Marvel Silver Age is the freaking best, dude.
Very good.
So hard to work on, though. And Larry, I love your new mic, but either lower your gain or move it because we can hear you breathing.
Oh my goodness.
No, it doesn't sound like that.
That was a feature, not a bug, Shelby.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Give me a call later and do that.
All right. I agree with Ben on this. I think I'm more in the 5.0 range is the
what I would
sort
think.
of
but
where that
you're
book
running a risk.
For me, I'm thinking between a
book.
Between a 4.5 and a 5.5. That's
but again, you are running a risk with the Silver Age book and doing aqueous math. I mean,
absolutely.
Like I said, it'd be a fun project. But
all right, let's keep the show moving. We got a B segment. Okay. So here's what we promised to talk to you about a little bit about our book. We're not doing an advertisement for it because, frankly, right now you can't get it. The Kickstarter's over and it's not yet on Amazon for you. But what we thought we would do is just give everybody an update as to what they can expect over the next few weeks. If they were a backer, when they can expect to get their book, that kind of stuff. So Shelby, take it away, my friend.
All right. So yes, our Kickstarter ended on Friday. I mean, again, I think Paul and I can't express enough how humbled we are by the support and such. So on the Kickstarter, you can create what they call a spotlight now that the campaign has ended. And so this is the art I put together this weekend. I thought was pretty nice.
I think that's great.
Thank you.
Yep.
And yeah, so we'll be adding that. And as soon as we get the link to the Amazon listing, we'll be posting that on there too. So and expect to see updates, and I'll talk about how you can get updates and things like that. Well, we will be doing updates with Kickstarter, but also in the community. So go ahead, Paul.
We've had a few people just to reach out to us. They kind of were planning on waiting to the last minute on the Kickstarter, and they missed it. Some folks thought it was going to end at midnight, and it ended at 8 Central on Friday. So we will have. So again, it's not available right now, but it's going to be up on Amazon within probably a week or 10 days. So
yeah, I'll give a timeline here in a second.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So, oh man, like I said, Paul and I are just.
That's great.
Yeah, we're
that's great.
Yeah. I mean, I would never imagine we would have hit that high. I was hoping at the very beginning, like 40 backers, and maybe we make $1,500. But to have 221 backers, almost 17,000. Now, of course, y'all don't think that we're rich now. Okay, that. Trust me,
we have a lot of costs.
What?
We have a lot of costs that's going to be taken out of this.
Don't send me a request for a loan.
No. So, but here's some breakdown for some statistics. Soft cover, we sold 83, hardcover 37, soft cover signed 19, hardcover signed 21, and then the deluxe, which went. I thought we might do 6 of them. Selling 18 deluxe hardcovers is freaking astounding. For a total of 178. The initial printing of the deluxe hardcover is 30, so we do have some extras if people are interested. That we'll be doing signed and numbered editions on. So you're welcome to reach out, and we can make a deal on the side. Like I've talked about before, though, if you didn't do the Kickstarter, then on Amazon, the soft cover is going to be 60, the hardcover is going to be 80. But again, everybody that has gotten this in their hands have talked about how that's worth it. It's a huge book. This is 8.5 by 11. I wish I had another cleaning and pressing book to show as comparison, but it's small. Yeah, you definitely get your money's worth.
And it's actually thicker than that. That's an early edition that Shelby has there. We added about 40 pages, I think, after that. So
yeah. So here's our timeline. We are waiting on a few people to finish their pledges. So the way Kickstarter works is they will send out an initial thing, charge everybody, and then you have to give people a week to if they had some payment issues, if payment didn't go through. So we're waiting on that because we don't want to miss anybody in the acknowledgments. So remember, if you pledged anything from $5 up to the 150, then your name gets in the book. So we want to make sure that we don't miss anybody. So with that being said, giving people about a week, digital copies should be emailed out by around February 7th to the 10th. Once we also have that finalized, we can list on Amazon. So there's about a 4-day wait period from when I push it live on Amazon and it actually goes into a listing. So it should be available on Amazon the following week around the 10th to the 14th. Hello, Carlos. my buddy that has really helped us out a lot. Thank you, Carlos, for all of your support. Paul and I, he lives in Austin. I live in Houston. So we have to get together to sign all the books. So we're going to try to get together around mid to end of February. I'm sorry, I skipped a thing. Physical copies should be sent out by mid-February. So those 83 people and 37 people, you'll get yours first. And then Paul and I will need to get together. I'm going to go visit him at his ranch at Casa de Kosnik.
I usually just say Kazakhstan.
Kazakhstan.
Makes people a little more uncomfortable.
It does.
I've been there. I've been to Kazakhstan many times.
Kazakhstan.
So we will get together and have a little signing party and shipping out the rest at that point. So
I just want to sort of make very clear the hardcover, the deluxe edition will never be on Amazon. So as Shelby said, we did not completely sell out of the 30 copies of the signed numbered edition. Those will be available first come, first serve to folks who reach out to us. If we have a few left over, maybe we'll take them to cons or whatever, but that'll be the only way to get the rest of the deluxe edition. That will not be on Amazon.
Yeah, and actually this 18 is just what we sold on Kickstarter. I know we already have three or four more spoken for. So really there's only
Yeah. So I think we have 4 more accounted for. So
yeah, I'm going to claim another one myself. So
I think it's 22, 23. So there may be about 7 left possibly. So
and
no guarantees. First come, first serve on those. Yeah. I want to say hi to Barbarian Kung Fu.
Hey, Barbarian. He's from my channel, old friend of mine. He and I started in the auction game together on YouTube. Gosh, 4 or 5 years ago now, and a super great friend and supporter.
And I wanted to also say, I know Shelby said it, but I just want to thank Carlos Collects for really giving us a spotlight and a platform, putting us on his channel, and definitely go check him out. Subscribe if you're not already over there.
Yep. And so, physical signed, that should be the deluxe also. So we'll have the deluxe going now. Not trying to do any upsells on this. And I was actually, for the deluxe edition, it's a slightly different format. And I ended up with some extra space in the book. So you'll actually get a few pictures in there that you wouldn't get otherwise.
Pictures of what?
It was an early idea of mine to show some vintage photographs of things. And they just never worked with the book, but this gave me an opportunity to fulfill my dream. So
I know there's going to be a picture of Jack in there someplace. So.
No. Jack's only in the same picture that he's always been in, which was really great because Jack, I was trying to show the difference between mixed calcium hydroxide and then calcium hydroxide, how it turns crystal clear. And Jack happened to walk behind the bottles, and it gave an actually really good contrast, show how crystal clear the calcium hydroxide becomes. And so no, not nipples, Barbarian.
I want to say shout out to Sales Boy.
Yes, Sales Boy, he's great. I watched his video
and Guerrilla Productions.
And Sales Boy, you used too much adhesive. You did not need to put that much adhesive down. Thin is all you needed. All right, keep up with the news. Thank you, Dr. Paul. Keep us moving on. There is the Comic Book Conservation Book Facebook page. We got 37 members right now, but there's a link to that. So it's pretty easy. Just facebook.com groups, Comic Book Conservation Book. And you will get all kind of new updates and notes and things like that. And also another way to follow any news is our Comic Book Conservation community. We are at 458 members as of today, which is freaking amazing. I think when I joined the group, there was 80 members or something. So, please go over there and join that if you want to stay up to date on anything. And thank you, everybody. Keep posting y'all's successes, your failures, detailing what you did. I mean, it is such a great resource. I've learned stuff like from you guys because, oh, I've never thought about trying that, or oh, this does work on mold or foxing or something like that, and such a great resource. Thank you all to the community.
Absolutely. I want to highlight this comment. So if you are a backer, you should receive an email that will ask you how you want your name to appear in the credits. So make sure you answer, make sure you respond to that, and let us know, and we'll put whatever name you want within reason. No obscenity and no names that go on for
so you'd rather have
64,000 lines or anything like that.
Gorilla, you'd rather have Gorilla Monkey.
Let's do it off. Let's
yeah, we'll do it off.
Do it by email, please.
Yep. Okay. And then, like I've talked about before, we are working on the second book, which is a how-to guide for conservation. I actually sent Paul a page today of a spread that I'd done. We are incorporating in a lot of things that people have asked for. So one is we're going to have QR codes with some of the images where you can go straight to the videos and see us actually doing the work. There's going to be more spreads, more step-by-step, which is something we discuss the steps. Let me say it like that in the current book, but we are going into much more detail. This one. Go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, I think the way that I think about it, because Shelby's touched on this a few times, the book that we just finished that you haven't seen yet, or most of you haven't, that you'll get soon if you're a backer, it's not just teaching a man how to fish, but it's every possible way that somebody has ever fished before and disclosed it into the public domain. And it's everything. So that doesn't mean that there aren't how-tos in there. That doesn't mean that you can't read it and follow along and do some process. What it means is every process that we could find reference to in either the community of comic book conservators or the peer-reviewed literature that describes treatments on paper is included in there. And the why, the how-tos, and the science behind it is included in there. Some of you are really happy just going, well, what's the best way to catch a fish, and show me that way. And so this book is more concise, it's more focused, and it's a little less theoretical and a bit more hands-on. That's not to say that the first book doesn't have how-tos, because it does. And if you want to purchase that one on Amazon, where it'll be available soon, or if you backed it during the Kickstarter and you're like somehow thinking, oh, it doesn't have how-tos, that's not true. So this book, though, will have, I think, a broader audience, the new one, and it'll be more concise, and it's going to show you in more detail the most used and most sort of versatile procedures for comic book conservation. That's the way I think about it.
No, and you're exactly right. It's also going to be at a lower price point, which is something we wanted to do too. We're shooting for around $30 for this book. But yeah, I'll give a super fast example so we can move on. Like wet cleaning. In the current book, we discussed calcium hydroxide. We discussed calcium carbonate. We discussed bicarbonate. We discussed magnesium. Right. All those things. In this book, calcium carbonate. I mean, calcium hydroxide. That is our go-to. That is what we're going to suggest. And we're not going to get into a discussion of all these other ways of fishing, as Paul said. Yep. We're going to talk about this way of fishing. And, in our opinion, calcium hydroxide is your best thing. Barbarian Kung Fu, that is also your answer to your question. we have seen a great success with oil stains, is either through a calcium hydroxide wet clean full immersion bath, or a poultice could probably work. All right. Go ahead.
Let's go ahead and address this.
We'll do that real quick. So there's two to keep this book at a lower price point. There's two things that are omitted from this book. One is leaf casting. Paul and I have talked about this, and I think there's so much out there in terms of leaf casting that we can bring to the audience. We're going to make that its own book.
It's going to be a standalone book. Also, there's so many people leaf casting now.
Yeah.
The field is advancing very rapidly.
Very rapidly.
And we want to include work from a lot of folks. And so, yeah, a standalone. The leaf casting chapter in the book was, to me, one of the funnest to write. And I just thought, as I was writing it, well, as we were co-writing it, but, you know, some chapters Shelby wrote more of, some I wrote more of. This particular one I wrote more of. And I was thinking I'd love to just expand this chapter into a book with lots and lots more pictures and examples.
More pictures.
Yeah, because pictures are really important.
Yeah. So that's not this one here.
Yeah.
That'll be later in the year, we hope.
Right. And then a complete book on restoration, detection, and removal. That is something I also pulled from this second book. So it'll be talking about removal of tapes, color touch, you know, so something that we didn't talk about in the book was detection of restoration. We did talk about some removal, but this will be both. So it'll help you in terms of your purchasing of books and detecting restoration, and then also removing that restoration. So I think that's really important. So that's going to be another book.
Yeah. Let's address this real quick. Jason says, I'd love to understand Kenny's method. It would be great to have insights into that.
Me too.
We interviewed Kenny. And
we have some pictures.
We have a lot of pictures. He was very generous with his time and sharing with us. And there's a 6-page spread from Kenny that is essentially just his leaf casting.
Yeah.
In process pictures and before and afters. So
you'll
get quite a bit of that in the current book. And we'll see in the next book.
But it is not. I mean, again, we could turn this into a 400-page book. All right. And then it would have been $100. And that's not what we wanted to do. And so in the leaf casting book, we will give greater detail in all the leaf casting techniques that we only had the opportunity to touch upon. So what Kenny calls full immersion leaf casting versus spot leaf casting, which you see Peter do a lot, versus suction table leaf casting
hybrid,
which is what Larry and Jerry do. So there'll be all of the.
But to be clear, that's all already included in the current book.
It is. It's just not in. Yes.
But there aren't. There are only a few examples, and there's definitely step by step in the current book, but there's lots more that could be talked about. So
it is.
All right.
So hopefully that got y'all excited some more. We can't wait till this gets in y'all's hands. And
me too.
You know, you can always find Paul and I in the Facebook community and reach out to us via Messenger. And
And we made a statement in the book, but it's worth saying here because this is probably our core audience will be watching this. We would love your feedback, good, bad, and indifferent, especially when we're wrong. I hope you see that when I'm wrong and people point it out, I appreciate it. We're not the sort that are defensive. We're both scientists. We have thick skins. We're used to being told we're wrong and then either having to prove otherwise or learn from our mistakes. So we actually have a special note in the book saying, if you see errors, please keep track of them, actually create an errata and send it to us. We really appreciate it. And, those will make corrections for the second edition. And we'll put a thanks in the book to anybody who points out errors that we made along the way. So anyway.
And we're open to helping the community too. So the email is libertyhillpress@gmail.com. So as part of us having to create this book, we had to create our own publishing company, so to speak. And we've now gone through the Kickstarter. We've gone through the publishing process. I've gone through the visual design aspect. So if you have any ideas or things you would like to do, please reach out. We are well open to helping the community. And if you want to get something out there and something published, or if you have an idea or something, if you want to do collaborations, please reach out. We are very open to that and happy to help in that.
Absolutely. It'd be great to see Liberty Hill Press grow and publish books by other authors. So
it would be
great. Well, thank you for the update, Shelby. Thanks again to all the backers, everybody who's interested in that.
I can't wait to get the book.
Yeah, I'm excited to get
can't wait
it in people's hands and get them, kind of giving us feedback and everything. And we're in the fun stages now. We still have some work to do, obviously, but we're in the more fulfilling part of the whole process. So really looking forward.
I have a lot of packing to do.
Yeah, a lot of signing to do.
Yeah. Oh, thank you, Joe. That's really nice of you to say. So we do have
a C segment.
We do have maybe the funnest section of the show, actually.
Oh my God. What a book.
This is really exciting. I didn't mean to bury the lead with this. I'm super excited about it. This is a project book that Larry worked on. If you were watching his channel, you've seen some of the highlights or the more details. He's going to give us the highlights here and allow people to sort of ask questions and interact with him on it. So take it away there, Captain.
Well, we were talking. Now, this is just so people haven't seen it. This is a semi-repeat segment we've had on the show before. But this is what we're talking about, Lou Fine art. I mean, you just look at the colors and the artistry and the penciling. It's a busy war cover. And really, like this says, this is a pre-war, before the U.S. entered into it. So a lot of these pictures, you're going to see repeats. I added some new ones at the end because the book has come back from CGC. So we'll go through it pretty quick. I mean, this book, it was when I got it. It was restored. The cover wrap was split. What had happened with this book is somebody had glued the cover wrap to the first wrap, and then that whole assembly split in half. So I had to take the glue off of basically 4 halves and put everything back together. It was a bit of a challenge.
And not for nothing, that's why we don't glue books back together with non-fiber glue, right? Like
we don't
glue becomes brittle.
Yeah.
You think so, Captain Obvious?
Yeah, and of course, I always pick these books that are a challenge, and then I open them up and go, oh boy.
What did I do?
Well, the thing is,
your pain is our pleasure, though, Larry.
Yeah, but basically the if you look at the label, it says restoring small amount of glue on spine. I call BS on this because it was the entire spine, and it was awful. So when I bought this book, this is what I looked at. I go, oh, small amount of glue on spine. I can take that off.
Oh, piece of cake. Yeah,
piece of cake. So let's go to the next slide. I'll show you what I was getting into. Okay, these are just the census values. There was no real comparables on this book.
Yeah.
The closest thing for a 2.5 was the little over $2,000. This book I actually paid with the taxes and everything. It was just a little under $1,100 for myself. So whether I made money or broke even, I really don't care because I really enjoyed the project.
Yeah.
So, and I'll keep this one in my personal collection. So,
by the way, this is a rare book for those that were,
Yeah.
we were talking about the Marvel Age and the Silver Age Grails from Marvel. Again, very cool books. We love them, but thousands in the Universal CGC census. 20 right here. 20. 10 total, restored. Yeah. A full 30. Third of all the books in the census restored. So
yeah,
this is a rare book.
It's a rare book. Next one. Okay, there's a close-up of the label. Yeah, small glue on spine. Yeah, sure.
How does it really make you feel, Larry? How does it really make you feel?
Yeah, I was a little bit bitter once I got the thing open and realized what I was getting into. And I won't repeat the words I used when I cracked it open.
Not to defend CGC on this, because trust me, if anyone has an issue with this, I'm definitely like on towards the top of that list. But they calculated on like a square inch basis, so they can make the argument saying like, well, within our parameters of what's within a square inch of glue, it just happened. Sorry, Larry. It just spread out.
So people should keep exactly what Phil is saying in mind when you see something. I got caught with my pants down on this one, but Phil's right. It's based on a square inch, and if you just put a millimeter line of glue on the spine, it's just still a little bit of glue.
Well, to be fair, like, what if somebody glued the entire cover, right? They have to leave room for large amount, and they have to have gradations in between. That's why just one line down the center is small.
Well,
to your point, Larry, people should know what small means. Small doesn't mean a dot.
Exactly.
Small means the whole spine or approximately that amount.
Plus the interior.
I did want to clarify though too, because as you'll probably show here, there is a distinction in the notes where where they will say small amount of glue on spine like they do here. There's also a separate note that they will say cover reattached with glue.
Yes.
So just to be clear, those are two different things. So Larry, what did you encounter here? Was this actually a small amount of glue on the spine, or was this something else? Maybe
next slide. So here is what we were looking at. So the cover was in half. The first wrap was glued to the wrap. Now these pictures are basically the cover is still glued at this point to the two halves of that first wrap. I have not separated them just yet. So there's tears. There's a lot of material that had to be replaced. Now, I apologize for the quality of the pictures. These are actually taken from the video on YouTube. So if anyone wants to see what it looks like, you can go visit it there. So it was PVA glue, Elmer's glue, because that was what was available to the artist at the time when he decided to glue everything together. So it made a bit of work getting, and as Dr. Paul has shown many times, getting PVA glue off of paper is very difficult without losing material. And I got it, but I did lose some material, which we'll see coming up. This required leaf casting. So it required leaf casting of the cover wraps and of this first wrap or primary wrap. So let's go ahead and go next slide.
Sure.
All right. So this is what I was dealing with. It was laid out properly. You could see the gap on the left-hand picture of how much material was missing and needed to be replaced. And the photo on the right-hand side, this is what it looks like when it's on a vacuum table. And Shelby was talking about different methods of leaf casting. This is kind of a hybrid. It's a liquid pulp that's being sucked into the page through a vacuum underneath. And I just run it up with a giant syringe that was very courteous of Dr. Paul to get for me. And that's how I filled in the pulp. So you go to the next page.
So this is what we call spot casting in the book. to differentiate it from manual where you don't have a vacuum table.
No, it'd be full
which the
immersion.
professor does quite a bit of.
Yeah. So this is what it looks like after it was
incredible.
Incredible. Great match.
Yeah. And I did it on both sides because a lot of people see a lot of stuff that's done at single side only. And I wanted it to look right and also have this also increased the strength of the two halves. So I just flipped it over and did both sides.
Beautiful.
Same colored pulp, but I was happy with the color match. And for everybody that's getting into the leaf casting, at this time, color match is not important. It really is for the structure of the page. It's basically to keep the book. But we're learning that as more and more people are doing leaf casting, there's going to be probably CGC will probably introduce at some point a grade on leaf casting and the quality
on the color
of the
match
basically the quality of it. What's it feel like? Things like that.
Right now, it's just professional or not professional. That's
correct.
it. Correct. And CGC doesn't make any distinction in terms of the quality of the color match. I do think if you used red paper or something, there would be a flag there.
Yeah.
But
I think so
it's expected to be, white to whitish, I think is fair to say. Neri Nan joined us. I want to say hi to Neri Nan. And JCP asked if there was Romay below the comic, and Shelby said, no, it is silkscreen.
That's correct. All right, let's next one. So that's a little bit of a close-up. Notice that there are no staple holes. Those obviously was filled in with the casting. So I was really pleased with how everything turned out. I mean, the colors were bright. I did deacidify everything, of course, and but I was really pleased with the way this cast worked out.
Really incredible. Yeah, absolutely.
And this is what it looked like after it was all put back together and made whole. So it's got new corners, new spine, and the colors just really popped. And like I said, these Lou Fine covers, they're so colorful and bright. Mm-hmm. Now, there was a question. There was a pencil writing 1939 on the word Wonderworld. I did not remove that because I think I would have done more damage to the cover trying to remove it. So we just left it as is. I think it came out great.
I'd have left it anyway, even if I could remove it.
I like that on covers. I know that you are iffy on it sometimes, Larry, but
well, if it's like I had like an X-Men where the X-Men is in white and somebody wrote something in pencil, I'm going to take it off of there. Like it says Georgie or something on the, I'll take it off of there. But if it's something like this, which dated, no, I'll leave it.
Yeah.
There's no reason not to take it off. So,
there's nothing quite like holding a complete book in your hand that used to be a tatter of loose leaves.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just phenomenal.
This is the thing when you get to hold these things, like you just said, and you realize, well, I'm done.
So satisfying.
Yeah,
it is. It is like a little Christmas present every time you pull it out of that final press and you see the culmination. And there's such a culmination of work here, right? Like the deacidification, the full immersion wet cleaning, the glue removal, the staple removals, the dry cleaning, it all culminates and you see this gloss back in the cover and you can see that sheen across the back cover and stability.
And just to be clear, I did not put any additives in to make it shiny. That is how the paper looks for this book. And from 1940, 84 years old. Crazy. And it's still shiny.
And this is from a company that was not around for very long, Fox Syndicate.
They got absorbed by somebody.
Yeah, it's such a rare book.
Yeah. So rarity is what I chase. So what's the texture difference between the cover and the inner wraps? Did you use different pulp? Yes. There's a definite difference.
If you've handled the books, like the interiors are newsprint and the covers are, like a cotton rag base. So
yeah, exactly.
Very, very different. Yeah.
Yeah, very, 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 very different. All right, let's do it. Next page. Okay, so everything's assembled. You look at the inner cover, the tanning that was there originally is gone. The page really presents well. You can see a little bit of brown around the edges. That's just, could I take that off? Yeah, but you got to remember these books were never bone white. They not when the day they came off the press. There was still that creamy paper that they use. That is newsprint, like you just said, and it looks great.
And
my
you
preference
will
is to leave them like this. Absolutely.
Yes, and you will get dinged by overdoing it. It's one of the big things in our book we talk about is minimal intervention. What just bringing it back to that state.
Well, the thing is that the tanning comes off the inside of the cover very easily by comparison to the tanning coming off of the wraps. So you've got to be very, very careful. You have a bright white interior to your cover, and this is borderline right here. And then you have the pages that they just don't match.
Yeah.
So all right.
This is beautiful.
Yeah.
Great work, Larry.
There it is.
Apparently, CGC thought so too.
Very nice.
Yep. They liked it. So it was a pretty good bump from a restored 2.5 to a 4.0 conserved.
Huge bump.
Yeah. So I was really pleased with that.
It's got to be at least a doubling of fair market value.
Yeah, but the thing is, we have no comparables.
Sure, but just it's still, conserved is worth more than restored, and a 4.0 is probably worth close to double what a 2.5 is worth. So you're definitely double the fair market value. Fair enough that we don't know what that number might be exactly.
Yeah, we don't know what it is. I started looking a little bit more research when I was putting the slides together and see if there's anything new. And I believe I broke even for certain. Because I may have paid too much for the conserved 2.5. And I think this book is this 4.0 book is probably, my valuation on it would probably be around 1,000. So I think it's probably a break even for me. But it was it was a fun job to do.
And long term,
it's a book that's also going to now last, right? I mean, that other book would have deteriorated and died in the slab. I'm sorry I interrupted you, Phil.
No. That's quite all right. No, you're exactly right.
It's a great point.
I don't care about interrupting you. I interrupted Phil. Go ahead, Phil.
Oh no, I mean, I was just gonna say, like, the conserved counterpart, one would think, is worth more than the restored counterpart, even if you did break even. So like the next person you would sell this to.
Larry, if I were you, I would just say, hey, some fool paid $1,100 for a 2.5 restored. This one's worth at least $2,000.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, I'm that fool, but the thing is I'm a big supporter of deacidification, as we all are.
Yeah.
And I started doing. I haven't done anything live yet, but I started doing pH testing on these books because really the professor got me started on that. In fact, I was working on Planet Comics here. This is just one of the needs to be worked on, and it came up with an acidity of 5. And I'm like, okay. So I started deacidifying everything, and I checked the acidity, the pH level of my solution. It was about an 11. So when I put everything together, once it was all said and done, I got everything down to about an 8.
Yeah.
So
8 to 8.5 is right where you want to be.
That is right where you want to be. And if
you want that alkaline in there.
If you look at the traditional conservation literature, that is where you want to be, because you've not only removed the acidity and gotten it to neutral, but you've also added that buffer into it.
Yeah, because it basically get an alkaline buffer in there, and it's going to last. It's not going to. It's not going to rot away.
You do not want it to go all the way up to like 10 or 11, because then that will start hurting your inks and such with the book. So no, that is your perfect range.
So Larry, is this the only conserved copy in the census?
I don't know.
Probably.
Actually.
I would say it's a pretty high value.
I think it probably is.
So this probably makes like 31 copies in the census or thereabouts.
Well, no, it break even because remember we pulled one out of the census.
Oh, fair enough. So 30, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's still 30.
So, I mean, for a book with only 30 copies in the census, an important book with Will Eisner and Lou Fine, again, I don't know. Saying it's only worth $1,000 is silly to me, frankly, because
I'm conservative when I
know you are.
True.
Yeah, I know
I'm very conservative on my valuation.
Where are you going to find another? I'm here. You can be conservative, and that's great. I am with my own books too, but also it's for our friends to say, you're being a little too harsh on this. So as your friend, I'm saying, this is a $2,000+ book. In my opinion, I would never let this go for less than $2,000.
Yeah,
that's just where I'm at.
I'm actually going to
Go Collect does show that there's only one conserved grade. Now they do show 31 in the census, but I'm assuming that's because the restored has not been removed from the census.
That's probably because they did get the old label back when I sent it in.
Yeah, it takes them a while.
It takes them a while to remove. Yeah.
Can I make a comment, ask a question? So I mean, you cleaned the interior in the same way that you cleaned the cover, right?
Correct.
So I find it interesting that the notations interior lightened, but the cover says it's cleaned. So to someone that doesn't totally understand, all of the different things here, they could look at that and that could be a little confusing, I would think, because the interior was indeed clean, just like the cover. The interior though was also lightened, presumably with like the blue light treatment. So I just found that interesting, and I'm not sure if maybe in the future CGC might make some
that is actually a discussion that I kind of started with Matt Nelson, and hopefully I get to have further discussions with Paul and Kenny and everybody else who will all gang up on Matt and say we need to have like some sort of standard to define, because when you deacidify a book, it is a wet cleaning process. Now you could deacidify with the dry cleaning process, but it's not that good, not by comparison. And when you do that, the book is going to have, the pages are going to get lighter regardless of whether you use a blue light or not. You're taking material, dirt and acidity out of the pages, they're going to light. So
can I say, because in my experience prior to us discussing this on the channel, when I first started getting going with this, I remember seeing books that had interior lightened from other restorers, and I was always under the assumption that they were doing some kind of a chemical cleaning that was making it viewed as interior lightened, maybe not even necessarily blue light treatment, but definitely not just a standard calcium hydroxide bath. Like it had to have been something more than that, because they're viewing
the other thing is we are using a surfactant in the bath, so it is getting a soap treatment.
That's true. So I guess that's also up for interpretation on how much.
Yeah, can I clean a cover and leave the interior pages this way they are? Yeah, but there's going to be such a contrast between the cover and the interior pages, it's going to look ridiculous. So
and it's not really conservation at that point either.
You're not conserving it.
Just trying to game the system and get a certain grade, right?
That's exactly what you're
conservation doing. Is conservationists and the sort of the goal is to preserve what is left and it's as close to original state as possible, and that means deacidifying the paper to save it from itself, because the paper is auto-destructive. So
Matt actually gave us a comment in our book when he looked at it, and he named deacidification as one of the top areas that they know they need to explore, and that is important because these books are literally just going to fall apart in the slabs. I actually just saw a post in Facebook where someone showed a book that was like, hey, when I got this book slab 10 years ago, it had off-white pages, but now you can look at the edges and see they've turned tan.
Well, the perfect example was that Men's Adventure 25 that I did.
Yeah.
And that was a 6.0, cracked the slab open. It came out in pieces.
Yeah.
Literally.
Wow.
And that's a perfect example of not deacidifying. So I'm hoping that Paul and I will have some further discussions about deacidification with Matt on a very serious level.
Yeah, this is one of the frontiers of comic book conservation right now. Yeah. We're at a really interesting point in the hobby. There's a lot going on. There's new things being developed and old techniques being applied to comic books for the first time. And it's exciting. I do think deacidification is a very important part of the future of conservation. And Matt Nelson agrees. He's just not going to be. He's going to react to. They can lead a certain amount, but they don't want to be out too far in front of, without speaking for him, they don't want to be too far out in front of the rest of the stakeholders in the hobby, right?
Right.
So
because
it's for us.
Sadly, right now, deacidification is going to give you more than likely a conserved label, and then that book is going to be seen as less valuable in the community.
You are absolutely correct.
And that is, I mean, it's a fine line for them to, to try to navigate. That's all.
If I take a book, if I take a book and just deacidify it, that's it, and put everything back together, it's a coin flip of whether you're going to get a blue label or a conserved label.
Yeah,
you just don't know. I've had both because pretty much everything I submit is deacidified because
that is literally the number one. That's the number one reason I don't, by and large, get requests for that from clients because there's no
guarantee.
People, when you're looking at the value and adding equity to a book, there's no risk of there might be a chance this comes back conserved and the value of your book drops significantly, but it's preserved. That argument's very difficult to make with people when you're talking about books worth 10, 15.
We do have people coming around to it though. And I think, not for nothing, this show and hopefully the book and educating people. Do you really want a universal Action 1? I mean, you're making an investment that's like generational money. Do you really want that to be dust in 50 or 100 years?
Yeah.
All other things being equal and exactly
until we can
number of defects, but one's deacidified and one isn't.
Until we can get deacidification into a universal condition, I don't see any way to avoid the conserved label.
I think
that is good, Phil.
Paul, me and you discussed this, I think, in like the very first interview that we did at the Collector Summit like over a year ago, and that was that like I don't think we use the word paradigm shift, but I think that we're kind of on the precipice of that because, and I've talked to this with several people on like really high-end books where I know people that would prefer to have a book that has the cover and the interior deacidified versus the same book that has slightly brittle pages. And obviously that's a two-step process because washing a book with brittle pages, there's a good likelihood you'll have to do some casting because you can wash it, but you still might have pieces because it's brittle. So, but you can preserve it better than it would be otherwise. And those books are starting to be viewed by people that I've talked to as more desirable than the counterparts of the book that are falling apart. So that's the level that we're at. And we're also at the level where these books are, they're 80, 85 years old. So they're,
they were not intended to last this long.
By and large,
never.
A lot of submissions of books. Like, I feel like 15 years ago, seeing Silver Age books with creamed off-white pages was a little more uncommon. It's much more common now because just in the last 15 years, those books have become like that time has done damage to the books because they've just deteriorated, as we discussed. So that's a very important thing to remember.
And you're starting to see a lot of Bronze Age books becoming brown and tan.
Because they're getting old now too.
That's due to the acids in the paper. And so a shameless plug, we will be discussing paper tomorrow on Rick's Immaculate Comics show. They'll be at 6 p.m. Pacific time, 4 p.m. Central. Dr. Paul and I will be guests, and that is one of the topics that he's asked us to talk about is comic book paper. And so, we'll have some
I will see. I will be watching.
AG, what forms of deacidification will get universal 90% of the time? There are actually some techniques that probably would. They are not largely practiced. I think this is one of the frontiers of comic book conservation.
I agree.
I would like to get some content out on this front. So forgive me for being a little bit coy. But there are some things in the literature that I think would pass muster with universal practically every time. But I need to do some homework, and I don't really want to go on record with it just yet, but we're working on it.
Yes, I got my time zones mixed up, guys. Sorry, I'm in Pacific.
Yeah, I was getting confused by 4 Eastern, 6 Pacific. I don't think it works that way.
It does not, but it does in Shelby Land. And there is no, and I don't want to sound like a broken record, but we do discuss this a bit, but it's such a difficult topic to explain in the book. There are so many factors when it comes to deacidification, like the age of the book, the brittleness, the amount of tanning, it could have been manufactured in a different way that one day that, with different types of pulp in the factory. You cannot do a blanket statement of this type of process will get you a blue label or anything, right?
No, you can never promise that.
There is so many factors that go into each individual book that you got to take into consideration. Now, one thing that CGC will look at, and probably all grading companies, is the naturalness. If you deacidify a cover and it doesn't look natural to the interior pages, guess what? They know that it's been
absolutely
happened, right.
Yeah.
So
if you're going to do one, do them all.
Exactly. Technically, you have a better chance if you do the entire book because
well, CGC can't do destructive tests, and they don't have a time machine. So they're looking at tells that you leave in the book. And we go into that in our book. Oh. We go into it here to tell you what are the tells.
Yes.
When you do a process, you could get universal, you could get conserved, you could get restored. Here's how it breaks down. If you leave these tells, you're probably going to get restored. If you leave these tells, you're probably going to get conserved. If you're able to pull it off without these tells, you've got a good chance of getting universal.
And Matt wanted that in the book, that just cleaning does not automatically guarantee you a conserved or restored label. People press and clean books all the freaking time before they send them in. Okay,
that's what Matt did before he became president.
Right now, that may be dry cleaning and a quick press, but there's books that go in and get universal labels every single day, and just because you've done some kind of cleaning technique does not mean that you're going to get one of those other two labels, right? But is there a way we can guarantee you're always going to get a blue label? No,
never can.
No. You got to remember, it's in the eye of the beholder of who's doing the grading.
Yep.
So
let's wrap it up there, guys. I want to thank all of my co-hosts. I want to thank all of the viewers, whether you're watching this live or you're watching on rerun. Please give us a thumbs up, subscribe to all of our channels, and special thanks to AG for the super chat.
Yeah, thank you, AG.
And We will see you, Shelby and I will see you tomorrow on Rick's channel, Immaculate Comics. For the rest of you, we'll see you all in a week. And I want to say until then, take care of one another. Shelby, why don't you take us out?
Hey, and remember, peace, love, and comics. Bye, y'all.
Bye now.
See you, everybody.
Thanks for tuning in.